Okay, 4-6, use congruent triangles. This puts all of our shortcuts together. So you can see in our notes, we have the 5 different shortcuts that you've learned in previous lessons. Side, 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 where all the sides are congruent, all the corresponding sides are congruent. Side, angle, side, where you have 2 sets of sides with a sandwiched angle or an included angle. Hypotenuse, leg, remember that one only works for right triangles. You have the hypotenuse and a leg congruent. Angle, side, angle, this one was new last lesson. So you have 2 sets of angles and a side that is sandwiched between those 2 angles or included. And angle, angle, side, where you have 2 angles and a side that is not included or not sandwiched. So today's applications using those 5 shortcuts. So looking at these first couple of examples, it says, tell which triangles you can show are congruent in order to prove the statement, and which theorem or postulate would you use? So looking at number 1, look in our picture, we need to show that angle ADB and angle CBD are congruent. So using the idea from our last project, or our last proof from last block, so we have to show that these 2 triangles are congruent in order to show that a specific part of those triangles are congruent. Specifically, we're talking about AED, which is this angle here, and CBD, which is this angle here. So looking at where we're going with this, we need to show the triangles are congruent so we can show a specific part is congruent. So looking at my answer here, we need to show that pretty obviously ABD and CBD have to be congruent. And to show that those are congruent, I know that BD is reflexive, which allows me to use side, side, side to show that these 2 triangles are congruent. Now that we know they're congruent using side, 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 we can say that this specific angle is congruent. Example 2, similar idea. We need to figure out which 2 triangles we need to show are congruent in order to show that BD and BE are congruent, which is right here and right here. So in order to show those 2 are congruent, I'm going to concentrate on ADB and CEB. So ADB is this triangle, and CBE is this triangle. So there is an overlap. Be careful, there's lots going on in this picture. So I can say that AD and EC are congruent. I have AE being marked as congruent, DC is congruent. So AD has an overlap of ED. EC also has an overlap of ED. So if AE and DC are congruent and they both have an overlap of ED, it's safe to say that AD and EC are congruent. So if you look at ABD, I have an angle, I have this side of AD, and I have this angle. BEC, I have those same 2 angles, and this side is also congruent. So I can use side, angle, side to say that those 2 triangles are congruent. Because the triangles are congruent, I can say this specific part of BE and BD are congruent. That one was a little bit trickier than the first one. We have 2 proofs to go over, and I'm just going to review them with you. So this first proof, we're given that WX and YX are congruent. Up here at the top, I have them marked. And it also says that ZX bisects YXW. Well, as soon as you know it bisects, your next thought should be that it creates 2 equal angles. So that's going to be my next step. You can see I did my given statements, which I just went over. Because it bisects, it creates 2 equal angles using the definition of an angle bisector. So because this ray bisects this angle, that means we have 2 equal angles. YXO or YXZ, same thing, and WXO or WXZ would be the same thing, using the definition of the angle bisector. Now we also have reflexive, X to Z and X to Z are congruent. We're looking to show that this big triangle is congruent. XYZ and XWZ are going to be congruent using side, angle, side, as I have pictured in my diagram here. Now that I know that those 2 triangles are congruent, I'm allowed to say that this specific part of those triangles, YZ and WZ, are congruent using the idea from last time, CPCTC, which is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Again, you can't use that unless you definitely know that the triangles are congruent, and we did that in the previous step. One more proof for you. So this proof is giving me that AB and BE are congruent, angle D and angle C are congruent, and we're being asked to show that DB and CB are congruent. So very similar, we're going to show that the two triangles are congruent and then pick out that specific part of the triangles and say it's congruent. So the only thing that we have missing is these vertical angles. So ABD and CBE are congruent using vertical angles theorem. Remember, the theorem says that they're allowed to be congruent, or that they are congruent. Now in my picture, I have two angles and a side that's not included. That's my angle side, which allows me to say that the triangles are congruent. Now that I know the triangles are congruent, I can pick this specific part of my triangles and say they're congruent using CPCTC. Again, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent.